Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Roberto Rodriguez back with a new video, the first in a series called The Greatest Hurricanes to Make Landfall in the United States of Category 3+ intensity. So, this is just the first video, and today we're going to start with the 1926 Miami hurricane. Now, this hurricane, for those that don't know, it was a storm, a very terrible, horrible one that happened way back in the 1920s when South Florida was almost in the process of building towns and centers for people to live. So this was still in the 1920s, guys. So there wasn't much people in Florida back in those days. So with that being said, let's just cross over to the origins of the 1926 Miami hurricane. And it says, due to the sparseness of available observations in the Central Atlantic, the specific origins of the 1926 Miami hurricane remain unclear. Operationally, the United States Weather Bureau in Washington, D.C. did not begin issuing advisories on the cyclone until September 14. However, the tropical cyclone is first listed in HURDOT, the official Atlantic Hurricane Database, as having begun as a tropical storm with maximum sustained winds of 65 miles per hour, 100 kilometers per hour, roughly 1,100 miles, 1,770 kilometers east of the island of Martinique in the Lesser Antilles on September 11. Tracking west-northwestward, the storm gradually intensified and reached hurricane intensity on September 12, while still east of the Lesser Antilles. The observation of low barometric pressures and winds suggesting cyclonic rotation in St. Kitts on the evening of September 14 was the first to suggest that a hurricane had developed. The following day, the steamship Matura encountered a strengthening tropical cyclone documented a minimum pressure of 28.82 inches of mercury, 976 millibars, by 0600 UTC. By 060 UTC on September 15, the storm had strengthened further to major hurricane intensity north of the Virgin Islands. Strengthening continued into September 16 as the hurricane, let me read it again. Strengthening continued, it's a strengthening trend, but it was gradual. Strengthening, not rapid intensification. So let's just read it. Strengthening continued into September 16 as the hurricane reached a strength equivalent to that of a Category 4 on the Martellin-Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale. Although no official minimum pressure readings were taken in the area at the time, the tropical cyclone peaked in wind-based intensity at 1800 UTC on September 16 with sustained winds of 150 miles per hour, 241 kilometers per hour, near the uppermost limit of the Mother Day ranking Category 4. 150 miles per hour, 6 miles an hour stronger, it was a Category 5. It was just on the border. With this strength, the hurricane passed near the Turks and Caicos Islands, though its intensity at the time was based on the extent of damage there, as any measurement device was knocked out by the damaging winds. Shortly afterward, the cyclone struck the Bahamian island of Mayaguana at its peak intensity. After passing the island, the hurricane slightly weakened but maintained formidable strength as it accelerated through the southern Bahamas, passing near Nassau on September 17. The storm then made a second landfall on Andros Island in the Mangrove Cay district early on September 18. Thereafter, the hurricane crossed Andros Island and passed over the Gulf Stream en route to Florida. This trajectory brought the storm... Let me just get back to the page right here. This trajectory, and I'm going to make it a little bit larger so you can see a little bit better. This trajectory brought the storm ashore on the coast of South Florida near Perrine, located just 15 miles south of downtown Miami. before 12:00 UTC on September 18 with winds of 145 miles per hour. So it weakened from 150 miles per hour, just 5 miles an hour. It didn't make a difference. And at 233 kilometers per hour, and a minimum pressure estimated at 930 millibars, 27.46 inches. At the time, the hurricane was very large in size, with a radius of outermost close isobar 375 miles across, 604 kilometers. Hurricane force winds were reported from the upper Florida Keys to near St. Lucie County. Legislated again. Hurricane force winds were reported from the upper Florida Keys to near St. Lucie County. Let me read it for a third time. Hurricane force winds were reported from the upper Florida Keys to near St. Lucie County. Around 20 to 30 UTC, the eye of the hurricane passed into the Gulf of Mexico near Punta Rasa, though by that time the pressure in the eye had only risen to 28.05 inches, 950 millibars, a Category 3. The winds in the eye wall. Come on, really? The winds in the eye wall had decreased to 105 miles per hour, so it was a Category 2. So, I apologize, 169 kilometers per hour. The hurricane had weakened over South Florida as a result of land interaction. So, the hurricane had weakened over South Florida as a result of land interaction, but re-strengthened after emerging into the Gulf of Mexico of Punta Rasa 6 hours later. The warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico allowed for the tropical cyclone to reach a secondary peak intensity with winds of 125 miles per hour, 201 kilometers per hour, on September the 20th, equivalent to that of a modern-day high-end Category 3 hurricane. Although the storm had taken a more northwesterly course through the Gulf, the hurricane later began paralleling the coast of the Florida Panhandle and thus slowly curved westward. As a result, the major hurricane, now weakening quickly, made its second landfall near Perdido Beach, Alabama, at around 21:30 UTC that day, with winds of 115 miles per hour. After landfall, the storm quickly weakened and meandered off of Alabama's barrier islands, eventually moving offshore for the last time on September 21st near Gulfport, Mississippi, as a tropical storm. The cyclone continued its decay inland, degenerating into a tropical depression the following day before dissipating over Louisiana shortly thereafter. Wow. In the preparations, it was just 2 days. The United States Weather Bureau advised caution to ships tracking in Bahamian waters and the Florida Straits. The first tropical cyclone warning associated with the storm was a northeast storm warning issued on September 17 for the Florida coast from Jupiter Inlet to Key West, Florida. Warnings along the United States eastern seaboard eventually stretched as far north as Charleston, South Carolina, upon the storm's first landfall. Additional warnings were posted with the United States Gulf Coast on September 19 and covered coastal areas from Apalachicola, Florida to Burwood, Louisiana. Apalachicola, Florida to Burwood, Louisiana. Apalachicola, Florida to Burwood, Louisiana. Information on the storms discerning by the U.S. Weather Bureau was relayed by various radio and local press services, though the Bureau specifically acknowledged the Mobile Register for their efforts on disseminating storm details. Before turning into the next video, let me go to just a few images over here. Let me see if we can find some of the damage. So, let me just go back to the page where they have the hurricane. So this is the hurricane over South Florida. This is the Great Miami Hurricane. So that's a little bit north, so it could have been right about here. Because Miami's right over here. Fort Lauderdale's over here. West Palm Beach is right over here. Lake Okeechobee's right here. So, yeah. Yes, it could have been possible. Its peak is 150 miles per hour. It was a 1 minute sustain. Make landfall. Winds of 145 miles an hour. But people got out into the storm in the eye, thinking that the hurricane had passed. When they started to pick up the pieces of debris from damaged buildings and infrastructure, the second half of the storm came in worse with a 12-foot, 16-foot storm surge and literally washed off the people of the Iberia Islands into the ocean. Their bodies were found? Not really. We don't know if their bodies were found in the Bahamas or they float away into the Bahamas like Lake Okeechobee victims and the 1935 Labor Day hurricane victims. Well, that's just for another video, so before turning into the night, let's go to some of the pictures of the damage here. This is a perfect example of lack of strong structures, because you guys need to know, Florida at the time in the 1920s was swarming with people from the north, so these people had no idea what a hurricane was like. And they built houses like they built in most of the country, like in New York. But in reality, most of these homes were wood frame, did not do well. Only the concrete slab was left, as you see in this picture right about here. So, let's just go to another picture. Wow, this one is very interesting. This was after the hurricane, guys. This is a mangrove forest, if you guys don't know about it. Florida has a lot of mangrove forest. And this is a destroyed property over here. So, the last pictures before going out. This is downtown Miami, guys. This is downtown Miami in the 1920s. Oh. Sorry, I'm a little bit tired. I apologize for that. This is downtown Miami, guys. So, this is way back in the 1920s. Don't go visit with New York or with Chicago or Los Angeles. This is Miami, Florida in the 1920s. And this is the final picture before turning in to the next video. This is Bayshore Drive after Hurricane Miami, Florida. Wow. The palm trees did survive. It's pretty interesting that these high-rises did survive so much abuse. Imagine if this storm was Category 5. So, thanks for watching my video, and we're turning for the night. Bye-bye.